everybody. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all having a great day here at Play Blackpool. Come on up, guys. Come on up front. I hope you're all having a fantastic day here at Play Blackpool. We've got so much great gaming action. I'm seeing lots of nods. I'm seeing happy people. I'm seeing a 3D camera and 360 degrees over there as well. Right. Nice. You're going to do that for an hour, I trust, yeah? Good. Right, so everyone watch him and point at him if he ever falters, if it ever goes down. I hope you're having a great game day with us. Thanks very much for coming to our first talk of the day. We're absolutely thrilled to be bringing you today. I know that if we go through the gaming history of somebody like yourself and get people to raise hands every time I mention a game that you've worked on, we'll have everybody in the room with tight arms like this gentleman right here, in fact. So we won't do it that way, but we'll be talking through a very long and very illustrious career. Would you please put your hands together, everybody, and welcome Jim Bagley. Throne of fire. There we go. So, Jim's been working in the industry for a long old time.
Yeah,
Jim.
30 years.
Thank you for joining us here at Play Blackpool. It's fascinating looking over the career history of somebody yourself and thinking, oh yeah, that one I remember, that one rings a bell, but I played a lot of games back then, and that's one of yours, and that's one of yours, and oh, that was yours as well. So I think first I'll say, thank you. You made a lot of great games, Jim. And we'll find our way through. We're basically going to be discussing your career history from how you started, all the way through all the platforms, and all the main publishers, and many titles that you've worked on, and we'll come up sort of modern day, and find out that some of the things you've done have kind of gone full circle a bit as well. And we'll talk about some modern projects as well. And we'll have some questions at the end if anybody's got any questions. Please do. If there's anything you want to ask, please do make sure you do at the end. Jim will be happy to chat to people afterwards as well.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
But do ask questions at the end, please. You're very welcome, and we love you too. So how did it all start for you, Jim?
Well, it all started with arcades, basically. As a kid, I lived in Wirral, and there was a place called New Brighton, and it had a pleasure beach.
New Brighton?
Yeah.
Okay.
As it had a pleasure beach, it's not a pleasure beach anymore.
Was it a pleasure beach then? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was at arcades.
There you go, that's all we got.
What more do you need?
That's what we wanted.
And yeah, I used to go and play it over a weekend and take all my savings and go and spend on arcade games.
And your parents' savings? Yeah. That's what we all do, isn't it? So what was your favourite arcade title back then? What were you making a beeline for?
Back then it was things like Go, Frogger, Scramble, Space Invaders.
I know you've got a particular affinity for Space Invaders, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And so you were young then, this is when you were a child, you were going to school, and computers were starting to find their ways into schools.
Yeah, well, when I first started playing arcade games, I wasn't in a school that had a computer. I was still sort of at the end of middle school.
Okay.
Because I went to 3 schools. We had a primary, and then middle, and then high school. So it wasn't until I was 13 I went to high school, and you had one BBC, lonely BBC, which was had a queue about the size of this room for people wanting to play all the great games on the BBC, and they had 6 Sharp MZ80ks just sitting around doing nothing.
That's not something I remember a lot of schools having. I know when I went to school we had a few BBC Micros. Yeah. We had one of the old the Doomsday Book things. I can't remember the full title of that. You remember the Doomsday Book on Laserdisc that came out? That was in one of the late schools I was at as well. Yeah. Sharps though. Did anybody have a Sharp in their schools? That's not. Yes. Good. Yeah.
Or a 380Z research machine.
Research machine.
Yeah. It's like a black box, like a CPM machine.
Yeah.
No, it's that.
No.
Not even the teacher.
And not many people used the Sharp, so you did.
So I did, yeah. While I was in like names down in the queue to play a game, you think you put your hand up for a question. And you see something else coming out, like something. But yeah, when I was like waiting for me going on the beam, I'd go and sit at a Sharp, turn it on, and type like programs out of the manual. And
from the manuals themselves?
Yeah.
Did you ever get Input magazine? Everyone remember Input magazine? Good old Input magazine. You imagine telling people we used to do that. We used to buy a magazine for the code and type it in. It's been longer typing than playing. Good old Input magazine.
When I started typing out magazines, it was when I was on the Spectrum.
Yeah.
And Sinclair user in your Sinclair.
Input covered a lot of tiles. I'm not sure we're back as far as the Sharps we're talking about here. So you got the manuals and you just got to grips with this stuff. So you had a natural affinity with this from a very 13-year-old.
Yeah. Basically, the computer teacher that we had in school was a maths teacher. They said, you know, maths, you can teach computers. So he had to teach himself, and I ended up whizzing right past him.
Yeah.
To a point where he says, "Oh, you'll never get anywhere playing games." Hey. Say it to his son. And now with the Guinness World Record. Hey.
There you go. I do hope you've told him.
Well, I keep trying to find him on Facebook. I'm sure it'll get to him.
So you were good at maths, and okay, so that equals being good at code. There's some affinity and logic to that. Anybody who's dabbled with code knows that's an important thing you need to be able to do. But did you find hours just disappearing as you just got deeper and deeper involved in all this?
Yeah, it does eat up the time. I asked the teacher if I could take the book home, so I could study it and figure out how it was working. Then I'd make my own programs up and write them down, take them in the next day, and then write them out and have them working.
Yeah. And were they encouraging?
What, with the school encouraging?
Yeah. Did they let you take the book home?
Oh, yeah, they were encouraging letting me take the book home, but they were sort of trying to limit my usage on the computers. Which is crazy considering that I was the only one that actually used the Sharps.
And it came. There's a difference between being able to code and being able to make games.
Yeah.
You can be great at coding, but that doesn't mean you've got the creative ideas to make something that you want to play. So did the ideas come to you as well?
Yeah. Basically, because I was playing games in the arcade, I can't remember the name of it now. It was a driving game, and it was black and white on the screen, and it had dots. Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
I love it when that happens at these events, I genuinely do. I can't think of a thing. I think we will collectively get there, no doubt about it. Well done, everybody.
Plenty of heads in here, no games, so in the end. So yeah, I used to enjoy playing Night Driver in the arcades. Basically, I'd write a program that scroll stuff up the screen, which was just the characters' cells on either side of what was a road, even though it was just black screen anyway, or should I say green. And then you'd have your car, which was a H, because that's closest you can get to look like a car. And it just scroll down and have keys left and right to move.
And you're avoiding obstacles.
And avoiding obstacles and keeping within the confines of the road. I got that working. That was my first game on the Sharps.
Okay, so you got ideas and you had an affinity for code and you started out on Sharps.
Yeah.
Basic, machine code all came along. Your parents encouraged us as well, they bought you machines.
I only had one parent at the time.
Oh, so.
Yeah. My mum bought me a set after seeing me bringing the book home and everything and really getting to grips with it. She got a loan out and bought me a ZX81. So, which I was greatly appreciative of. And I started writing games on the ZX81 and spent all the evenings in there, not having to stay behind at school for hours on end until I got kicked out. And we need to go home too. But yeah. I'd go home and start making games on the ZX81 and try and make as many games as I can each night, just different games. And I'd have friends come around and say, should you play a game? I was like, yeah, okay. No.
On the ZX81? So every game that you'd made?
Yeah, most of the time. I ended up, not long after, a friend come around and said, I was watching Star Wars. Yeah, it'd be great to play a game of Star Wars. Yeah, great. Wonder if I could do it then. So what
was your Star Wars game?
It was Crosshair in the middle of the screen, and the TIE fighters floating around.
Which letters were the TIE fighters?
It was graphics.
Yeah,
it was 81. No, you had graphics. and it was like a left arrow and a, well, not a left arrow, but maybe 3 dots
Okay.
for each corner.
So you were moving up and down left and right and targeting TIE
I
fighters?
used the cursors to move, like to try and get them back into the crosshair and press
Space.
M.
M.
Space was break.
So yes, why was that ever the case?
I know.
So many times on a ZX81 break. Why is break there? We need
It's
a
the
space
fire
button.
button.
We need a space key from time to time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you've got people in school telling you enough to make a living out of games.
Yeah.
So how did you make a living out of games? How did it start?
Right.
And there's a lesson to be learned here, I think, about persistence and sticking your neck out as well.
Yeah.
Making that leap.
In sixth form, I was like, didn't have a clue what I wanted. Well, I knew what I wanted to do, but they were saying, well, when I started sixth form, I wanted to make computer games. I wanted to do computer programming, and said, well, the only course that you could do was business studies. It's like, well, that's fucking computer games. And so ended up doing that as a side bonus of doing computer studies. I could, at that time, type 120 words a minute, so it wasn't too bad. So I did have one good thing come out of that. And so I used to go to a local computer shop in Policy called Microbyte, and I used to chat with the guy behind the counter, obviously to chat about games and stuff, and see which ones were the latest. And as it was coming close to like halfway through the year, the school year, I said to him, are any computer companies like local? Because little did I know, like the Northwest is like the whole of the games industry for the UK. I was thinking it was either like down south or like in America or something. How naive we were back then. And before the net and everything, before you could actually find out where
of course.
things
You
are.
know, like communication was different then, wasn't it? You wouldn't know what was around the corner from you unless you went around the corner.
Or if I'd actually read the bits in the mag where it says like Ocean, Manchester and stuff.
So the guy at Microbyte, he did know a little.
Yeah, he said, yeah, we've got a couple of companies that come into the shop. I said, cool, can you get me a phone number or see if I can get an interview or something? And he did, and Consult Computer Systems was local. And this was my first game in the computer industry.
You had like a telephone interview and it was...
No, it was, well,
you went and you showed him some stuff?
Phoned him up and said, can I come in for an interview? And he said, yeah, sure. And I went to where they were and took in a couple of demos and he said, yeah, awesome, you can start.
So this is where it began. Did anyone play Throne of Fire? Oh. Yeah, we've got some of those. We've got some.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to put their hand up in case.
I know, yeah.
Keep it up. Yeah, it's Throne of Fire. And as pressurised first jobs go, you're working with Mike Singleton.
Yeah, I was working with Mike Singleton. It was his design for the game. And he had no actual feedback in the game.
Okay.
Basically, when he'd come to the office, but he was too busy with Dark Scepter because he'd do like crazy things, like he'd sampled clanging 2 spoons together in his garden, and then he'd like compress the sample down to like 200 bytes, and he'd come in and, yes, I've compressed the sword climbing down to 200 bytes. And it was like, okay. Can you look at the game? Is it okay? But yeah, having to do a game for Mike Singleton, which was a bit scary for your first game in the industry, considering like what a legend he was.
Went well though.
Yeah, it went well.
Did you ever find out what he thought of it?
No.
Never at all.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But it led to so many great things. So let's tackle a massive gaming history.
Next, we have Rover.
Over there, which we have. We have the arcade cab of that in the main hall. And arcade conversions is something you did a lot of.
Yeah, this was the first arcade conversion, and basically we were given the cabinet into the office, and we had to play it, and we had to complete it, and then put everything that was in the game onto the specky.
Now, you weren't given a lot in terms of assets, you weren't given code, you weren't doing anything.
No code, no graphics, no nothing, no audio. It was just, it's an arcade game. Make it work on a spec unit.
And so this is what you call, what you were saying to me earlier, visual
port? A visual port. Well, it's I don't know what other people call it, but I call it a visual port. It's where I look at a game, I play it all the way. Sorry, you can do it, yeah, carry on. I just give you going to ask you a question. I look at the game, play it all the way through from start to finish, and it's not just playing the game from start to finish and completing it. You have to actually play it well. You have to play it bad because there might be things that you actually miss when you're playing it to complete it. So we play it for like weeks and weeks. Well, say weeks and weeks, about a week and a half, because we only have like 3 months to get the game from when you get given the project to getting it out to the shops.
So that includes distribution time and so on as well?
Well, no, that's...
Getting it to the distributors.
Yeah, getting it to the distributors.
So you've got 3 months to learn how to play Roadrunner.
How to play Roadrunner.
Play it well and badly.
Yeah.
Because you've got to explore every way of finishing a level or not finishing a level.
And stuff, yeah.
And what I find absolutely fascinating about it is you're not then given the assets, you are making everything again. So you're listening to everything, right, so make it sound like that, we've got to make it look like this, we've got to code all these things.
To map the levels out.
Yeah.
Sort of how it is on the game, and then we've got to think how it's going to fit onto a spec unit. You've got 48k where arcade games have like loads of ROM slots and loads of ROM space to shove as much graphics as they can, especially with one of my later games, which I did manage to get on the spec unit.
There you go. So that seems frankly an impossible task. Just look at a game and essentially it's like those fraud artists who paint old masters. And go, well, there's a Rembrandt. I'll give you another one. I'll make another Rembrandt exactly the same.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Amazing way of doing things, but very successful. So it worked.
Yeah.
So you worked on this as an arcade version. Let's have a look at some more of your titles and we'll see who remembers.
And then after that, I went on to...
We're doing this chronologically, but the arcade conversions and platforms will come and go, as you see.
Yeah. And this was a port of the Commodore 64 version that was done by Epix. So, well, I don't know who actually did the Commodore 64 version, but I ended up having to convert it to the Spectrum.
Did you find, so it's one thing to do a visual port when you've got no assets and code and making that game from scratch. How did you find porting?
Again, we didn't have any code or graphics. We just...
Oh, okay, so this is a remake.
A Commodore 64 disc, and that was it.
You just played that to death?
Just played that to death, just the same way as we did with the arcade games.
Were there any games you worked on where you were doing a port of this nature and you missed a bit? Did anybody ever say to you later on, did you know that if you lost 2 lives on level 17, this Easter egg thing appeared, and it wasn't in yours?
There's Midnight Resistance, but my most famous was Midnight Resistance. Although I got everything in, the one thing that I didn't get in was 2-player.
Oh, okay.
And I think only one person said, why wasn't there a 2-player?
I got away with that pretty well then.
So considering how
Easter eggs go, 2-player mode isn't really what I was thinking of. Okay, so Street Sport Basketball and World-Class Leaderboard. There you go. Now when you mentioned that title to me, World-Class Leaderboard, I was thinking, I don't remember what that is. Completely recognise it though. Having seen the images, this is how it used to work for us, isn't it? You know, going into shops and buying this stuff. And quite often buying games because we looked at the box and thought, that looks good. No, I don't know anything about it, but it looks good. Dad, can I have some money? So what I realise, and what we'll see as we go through your history, you've worked on just every kind of game, really.
Pretty much, yeah.
You've not only just conversions and platforms, you know, we've got sport, and we've got fantasy stuff, and we've got shooters, everything.
Yeah, it's pretty much every kind of genre. So I've not had a chance to reuse my code. I've had to work from scratch with every project, so I kind of get used to working like that. So when I do start a new project, I'll start from scratch pretty much.
And you prefer it that way?
Yeah,
it's all yours, you know what's what.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And especially...
You could become the European golf champion of 1987.
Yeah. And
look at that.
The thing with this one though was, this was done originally by John Gibson. I don't know who did, the Commodore 64 version was done and then it was ported over to the Spectrum. And the thing is, what they did when they did it, I don't know whether it was John Gibson who did it's basically the Spectrum version of Class Leaderboard is a Commodore 64 emulator. It runs the same code, it runs the 6502 through emulation to render the screen and then displays it and does all the physics and the ball and everything. And my job was, because John had left to go to America because he'd been given a big pay rise job to go over there, so he thought, yay, fuck this. And so he didn't have to finish it because basically, can I share that? Hello. No kids in.
Any children in? Anybody got any children with us? Oh, there is, yes. Hello.
He doesn't care, that's alright. So anyway, he left the country. And I was left with fixing all the bugs, and basically the game should have been out, which is probably another reason why he made a sharp exit. I had to fix as many of the bugs as I could in as little amount of time as possible because it needed to go out as soon as possible. So when it got to the point where there was no showstoppers, it was like, okay, ship it. So, okay, great, I can get away from it now. So, and then I did also move because the company went bust because John was one of the bosses and the other one sort of squandered money buying. We went through four Cosworth XR 4x4s.
Oh, okay.
XR 4x4i, I think they were.
Right.
And he'd written off like 3 of them. He was on his 4th, and like, we were running out of money. He's like, yeah, this isn't going anywhere. So thankfully, I got an interview, got headhunted at Special Effects, which is where I met the legend Joffa.
There you go. Anyone play Guts? Yeah, one odds, no odds. Oh, no, there we go.
Hey, you know, that man.
Yeah, and then Guts led to
Batman Crusader.
Now, who remembers this one? This is the, yes, good.
Hey,
there we go.
People have limbs.
Yeah, this was your comic book, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a comic book one.
And you're working at Special Effects, doing stuff for Ocean.
Yeah.
So now your experience as a developer or programmer, developer's a more modern word for that, isn't it? A programmer making games programs. So now you're amongst much bigger teams of people working for much bigger publishers. So you must be thinking, I've made this now.
Yeah.
I'm in this now.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed working at Special Effects because we were a good, close-knit team. And some cracking coders there and cracking artists. So yeah, it was good. Good to be working amongst them.
Keep going. We've got a lot of years to get through.
Yeah, basically, when we did Batman Kid Crusader, Joff did the Spectrum version.
Ah, yes.
And I did the Amstrad version.
And you did a lot of Spectrum and Amstrad things, didn't you?
Yeah, this was the fit. It was because of Batman that, because after Guts, I was saying to the bosses, why aren't we doing anything for the Amstrad? Because I've been developing stuff on an Amstrad CPC, PCW 8512, and so we developed on there and then downloaded to the Spectrum and Amstrad when I was working at Canvas on the other games. Back on these games.
And you were telling me you feel bad, perhaps bad something.
I felt bad. Like Specky games were coming out, and it's great, but no one was doing any games for the Amstrad because it was Commodore programmers and Specky programmers, and it's like no one was doing Amstrad stuff, and I could do Amstrad stuff. So I was saying to them, why couldn't we do an Amstrad port and stuff? And said, yeah, go on then. Like, oh, thanks.
So you did?
So I did, yeah. And so I ported Batman to the Amstrad. And I said, where's my artist? And he said, well, Chaz is busy doing the Spectrum stuff. So I said, well, can you not get an artist? I said, well, Chaz can convert them once he's finished. And obviously, by the time he'd finished that, it was, well, Chaz, you've got 2 days to do the Amstrad graphics because you're going to be doing the next game, which was Red Heat at the time. And so just just brushed the graphics out for the Amstrad and
sorry, Amstrad.
so it's something that's like it's bugged me for years because like it's Batman, Red Heat, Cabal, Midnight Resistance, Anodes and Hawk, all on the Batman and all in the monochrome. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you wanted to take.
I did try to push for an artist, but I was never given one.
Did you want to code it in Mode 0 then?
I did, yeah, always, yeah.
And said the Midnight Resistance you wanted in Mode 0.
I wanted them all in Mode 0, and I'd still want to do Midnight Resistance.
Redo
I was one right, yeah, redo it in 16 colour mode at some point. But I'd need to get an artist to do it because I'm programming. You don't want stick graphics because it'll look worse than the 4 colour mode.
At least you've got a resolution. It's good resolution. So in Mode 1.
Yeah.
And people want it. I know you do want to get this kind of thing off your chest, off your list, and one day I will.
Yeah, I've got a huge look. The problem is I've done so many games. I've got like so many games to do, and I'm not talking about the work stuff. I'm talking about my hobbies as well. So, and my list of games to do is like massive. And the thing is, some things are like bring it to mind. Oh, that would be brilliant! So it just jumps to the front of the queue because it's something that I think would be really good and I really want to do.
One day in sort of Play Blackpool 2016 or something.
Yeah, we'll get there and be like.
Yeah, we'll be announcing the
16 colour Amstrad Resistance.
So you just mentioned Red Heat and Untitled Chapter games are coming up as well. And what I find fascinating about these, you were given the script, but no, you never saw the film.
Yeah, we were given the script to Red Heat. We never got to see the film. I guess because we weren't part of Ocean, we were special effects, so we just sort of, yeah, you can do that, and here's a script. And
you got all the dialogue, and was it the film script? So
yeah, it was the film script, so you get the screenplay with the like, setting the scene, and Arnie says this, James Belushi says this.
And from that you have to go, well, guess what it looks like.
Yeah, we have to guess what it looks like, and then make a game out of it.
And a good game.
Yeah,
wow.
So whereas with arcade games and stuff like that, when we were converting to making a game out of it, it's like, what the are we going to do? Don't even know. And the thing is, like, because there's so many of us that were working on it, it's like, well, I think it might look like this, but what's he got in here, and what's she got in here, and it's like, well, and then we just have to, like, get it all together. We said, right, we'll do Classic Ocean movie tie-in, like, have a game section, and then have a mini game, and then another game section, another different type of mini game, and so we ended up having. I think
it was a big seller, right?
Yeah, we had a good couple of levels. I think it was 4 or 5. I can't remember offhand at the moment. And then during different stages in the level, you'd come across the sub games, which is like the old joystick breakers and a puzzle where you had to like light up different sections of money and whichever button you pressed, like up, down, left or right, it toggle lights.
Oh yeah, toggle some on, some off.
Yeah.
And you had to decode that.
You had to decode it and work on it.
So that's how movie tie-ins were done.
Yeah.
Script play tie-ins. And yes, now here we go. Cabal and Resistance, here we go.
These two I'm probably most famous for with my specky work.
And you're very, very proud of them.
I'm very proud of these, yeah, because it's something that I enjoy making, I enjoy playing the game, and I enjoy playing the arcade games that I converted from. And
were these your visual ports again?
Yeah, these are my visual ports. What happened was some guy from Ocean, usually Gary Bracey, would come with a silver case with a PCB board, an arcade PCB board, and a couple of controllers, and a SCART cable so you could connect it to your telly, and then you just plug it into one of the monitors in the corner of the room and just hammer it to play all the way through and play good, play bad, and just see what was in it and convert that and get it all.
So that process still hadn't changed. We were talking about that earlier on with Roadrunner.
Yeah.
Now we're up to this era of cabs.
Yeah.
And they're still going, just copy that.
Yeah. Yeah, we weren't given any source code, we weren't given any graphics, it was just...
Did you get any kind of design briefs? Did you get any kind of documents like level 1's like this, level 2's like this,
No.
level 3's?
No, just...
That stuff must have existed.
Yeah, would have done, wouldn't it? The design briefs was we had to play level 1 and write down what was in level 1, what it looked like. We used to take photos, get them developed, and so it was like covers over the screen for...
Yeah.
To stop any...
And yeah, of course, then you had to get them developed as well, because that's what we were doing with photos and that time. This is a terrible process of making a game.
Yeah, nothing was digital then. It wasn't on the computers.
I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed Cabal and Midland Resistance
Yeah.
and Hudson Hawk. That was a peculiar thing. I don't mean the game, I mean the film. That was a peculiar one.
Yeah. Hudson Hawk, that was quite a funny one actually, because we weren't just given a script. The script that we got was a really pre-production script. It wasn't the finished script, and you could tell it wasn't the finished script because when I finally saw the movie about 7 years ago, I was like, hey, this isn't right. which movie did we do? So,
is there a real danger in that people will buy the game and go, this is nothing like the film? Well, not nothing like
well,
the for other games. Not necessarily.
It could be, yeah, because the thing is, they could have had a scene in that we thought, oh yeah, that sounds like a good game play for a good scene for a game section. So we could have done that,
And it could have
and it could have got cut, and like people be, what the hell is this? So yeah, we had it looking quite like what's his name?
Bruce Willis.
Oh.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis, thank you. Yeah, we had it looking a lot like Bruce Willis originally, and then it had to be sent off for approval. And Bruce Willis said, "No, that can't do me any justice. So scrap it and do something else." So we had to do a caricature of Bruce Willis because he didn't want it to like.
If it wasn't sufficiently like him, he wanted it to be nothing.
It's got to look pretty or whatever he wanted it to look like, or so yeah.
We should all later tweet pictures from Hudson Hawk.
It's a shame that I haven't got any of the original sprites that we did for it.
I would like to see a little Bruce Willis.
That'd be funny.
Now, so we come now to another software studio. With Ultimate Soccer.
Yeah.
Master System days. We're doing stuff on the Master System as well.
After Hudson Hawk, we Ocean sort of overspent on something, and then we had to close the external studios. So Special Effects was one of the studios they closed, and
you moved on to Rage.
so Rage sort of started out of Rage, I suppose. And he set up a company, and then started up again and did more games. And he started off doing Striker for the ST Amiga, but it ended up having to be called Ultimate Soccer for some reason on the Sega Master System.
But you started doing it for ST and Amiga?
Well, there was a guy called George Christoforou who did the Amiga version, the ST version initially, and a guy called what was his name? Andy Rickson did the art, and
It'll come to you.
yeah, it'll come back to him.
Yeah.
Anyway, a guy did the Amiga version, and then we had to do it for the Mega Drive. Well, Striker. Yeah, I had to do Striker for the Mega Drive, but the George Christoforou was originally porting it, so I did the front-end menus for it, and he did the 3D section, which was basically a clone of the ST version.
You've worked on so many different platforms. I mentioned we'd come back to Space Invaders.
Yeah, well, thankfully, because of my varied background anyway from when I was learning, like in school we had a BBC, so they had a programme. I think it was you that told me, but no, it wasn't you, it was someone else. I'd been looking for the programme that it was. It had like squares on the screen that you put like hex numbers in, and each hex number was like a different instruction. And it was sort of like you could add another box to another box and store it in it, you know. And that's how you basically the basis of how a computer works anyway. So it sort of introduces you to machine code, but without actually
writing machine code from scratch.
And so it sort of twigged, you know, after writing a load of basic programs, it twigged how a computer worked. So I started doing 6502 first, which is crazy considering I'm mainly Z80 based. And then, obviously, by this time, my mum got me well, after the ZX81, she got me a VIC-20, and then it was really a specky I wanted, unfortunately. Sorry, Commodore users. And when I don't want to say my mum found the error of her ways, because that's really bad for everyone. But when my mum realised that it was a specky I wanted, we traded that in, and she got me a specky. And then I started doing stuff on the Spectrum, and I was typing programs on that in BASIC initially. And because I'd learned like machine code for 6502, I thought I've got to be able to do machine code for the Spec, because the games I was doing on the Spec, because the screen's like a bitmap, it's too slow in BASIC to do anything like fast and getting stuff moving around. So I started, like, there was, I don't know if it was Sinclair User or your Sinclair, they posted a little machine code like hex dump of a white noise generator. It was just like, and that was it.
Was that a key to unlocking it for you?
And that was the key to unlock. Basically, what I did was I wrote the hex numbers down, and then went through the manual for the Spectrum. At the back of the manual, it's got the hex numbers and then what the instruction is. And then I thought, right, so I wrote down the hex numbers and decoded what it actually wrote. And then thought, oh yeah, that's doing that, and that's doing that. And then worked out how to do it. And so from making a noise, I thought, right, well, if I can do that, let's start.
You reverse engineered
So
the white noise generator.
a white noise generator, and got it printing stuff on the screen.
And Space Invaders is a thing you've written for every platform.
Yeah, pretty
much. Your kind of...
Yeah, when I get a new piece of hardware, like when I went from Hudson Hawk, I did Spectrum Amstrad, and then I was given like the original Game Boy, and I had to say, right, learn that and write Hudson Hawk on that. The first thing I did was I thought, well, the game I've got to write is Space Invaders, so that's easy. It's got movements, it's got sprites, and you've got inputs for moving left and right, and you've got bullets, and you've got collisions and stuff. So if I can do Space Invaders on something, I can write any game on anything. Well, within reason, obviously. So when I got the Game Boy, I wrote Space Invaders. It took me about an hour, so it was pretty easy to get used to. And then so I took Space Invaders into the boss, which was Paul Finnegan. I said, no, can we get the rights for Space Invaders to release it on the Game Boy? He said, nah, it won't sell. Six months later, it comes out, and it was #1 for months. It's like, yeah, thanks. And because of that, I thought, right, any games I write from now on, I'm not going to give company, I'm just going to do them.
Did you get any money for that? Or did you give it to them?
No.
You gave it to them and they
No, I didn't give it to them. I talked to them and said, no, can we get the rights? So my version of Game Boy Space Invaders is still mine.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I said, no, do you want to get the rights to release it? And he said, no, it's right, it won't sell.
I'm conscious I want to leave some time for questions, and we have many years of games.
Yeah.
Let's move forward through. Let's move forward a little quickly through some of your race starts. We had a dual release of Defender and Joust, so those are more arcade.
Yeah, I did the Defender. Some guy in the London office of Rage did the Joust, and we worked together. I went down to London for a couple of weeks, and we knocked up Defender and Joust for the original Game Boy, and then
Striker,
yeah. And that's when we did. That was when we called, because it came out originally as Ultimate Soccer on the Mega Drive. when we did Striker, the second version, I was given full control of, well, I had to do the whole game myself. Because obviously I knew the Mega Drive a lot better than George Christopher.
So we've done Master System, and we've got some Mega Drive in your catalogue as well.
Yeah.
And oh yes,
jump over to
that's the Aerosmith game, wasn't it?
yeah, Aerosmith game. Music is the weapon. It's Revolution X, and again
That was a shooter.
yeah, it's a shooter.
And talking of shooters, I want to go to the big well-known Doom on the Saturn. Yeah.
That was a funny one. I've told a few people anyway. Like when I did it, it was 21 years ago now. Yeah. I did you had to do like a prototype to get it approved. And I had it running full screen, full frame rate, and I sent it off and waited for him. And got back 3 days later. I got a phone call off John Carmack saying, "No, you can't use the 3D hardware to render the screen." I was like, "Why not? It's going to be slow if I do that." He said, "No, you have to use the CPU like the PC." It's like, "Are you sure? This is your IP. Do you want this down?" It's like, "Yeah, I don't like the way the Saturn renders polys, so you're going to have to do it with the processor." So, okay, fair enough. If that's what you want. So, being a professional, I did it his way. But yeah, it turned out
Pretty well.
pretty well, yeah, considering what it was doing. Like, if you compare it to a PC of the same kind of like, spec, you'd be running it in a postage stamp size screen to get any playability out of it. But I was on the Saturn, it had to be full screen because you couldn't really release the game that was running it.
And we mentioned earlier on that you've had a few things in your career which sort of sat with you and you thought, oh, that doesn't quite sit well with me, like Amstrad games, from we mentioned earlier on. So this one bugged you for 19 years.
19 years, and then a year or two ago, I was at another convention, and John Romero was there. He was doing talks as well as that, and I was doing talks, and our talks were sort of at the same time, so we never really got to either sit in each other's talk or catch up. So I said, "Look, I need to chat with you about something. Got a bone to pick with you." And I didn't say that to him, but yeah, I said, "Can we have lunch together?" He said, "Yeah, sure." So we had lunch. We were only supposed to have like about half an hour before we had more talks to do. And we ended up spending an hour and a half chatting. He said that, well, I said to him, "Is there any particular reason why you didn't want these Saturn Doom to be done with hardware?" And because I had it running like full screen, full frame rate, and he was like, "If I'd have seen it running full screen, full frame rate, I'd have said, finish that port and get it ported back to the PC when you finished." Like, if you'd have told me that, like 19 years ago.
Spoke to the wrong John.
I know, yeah. Basically, what happened was John Romero was the one that did all the approvals for Doom. And the particular week that he was going to review Saturn Doom, he was away on holiday. So if it wasn't for that holiday, things could have been different for the Saturn Doom.
The small margins and places and times.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are, sometimes they don't. But it was still a good game. Doom on Saturn was still a good game. We must push through some more of your slightly more recent titles. We've got Tommy Macklin Rally on
PlayStation.
Another football game.
Another football game.
A good football game as well. And now this is with EA Sports, right? So now, big studios, loads of people. We've come a really long way from bedroom coding.
Yeah. This was like big, major AAA game.
So that's the original PlayStation. You did some work on the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I did a game on the Game Boy Color. That was basically with working on I suppose this was my first game that I was working on a big team instead of me having to do pretty much everything. So it was a bit boring. So after, because I enjoyed making games, but just doing a part.
You've been given an arcade cabinet and been given a matter of weeks to not only code the thing, but also figure out everything about it.
2 months to do a small section of the menu, just do the render engine for the menus. I was like,
2 months to make the menus for Premier stars.
So anyway, after doing that, I pestered up and said, "Can I do a Game Boy Color game?" So he said, "Yeah, there you go." And so...
And they said they handed you this, but when you say they handed you this, they didn't know what they wanted.
They didn't know what they wanted. They said, we want a snowboarding game. And that
on
was
the Game Boy Colour.
That was it. No.
Was it a colour machine? Let's have a game with white in it.
Yeah. We want... we want a 3D game, but we don't know if the Game Boy Colour is fast enough to do a 3D game. So although you've got you usually give 3 months to do a game, we give you 4 months. You get a chance to do a couple of prototypes to see if you can get something running fast enough in 3D, and then do the game. So you either do 3D, find out whether it's pass or fail, and then go do 3D or 2D. And so
you made 2 versions?
No.
Two prototype versions?
No, it was...
Oh, they went just 3D one?
No, we just did the 3D one. If the 3D would have worked, we stayed with 3D and just continued. Otherwise it'd been, oh no, what are we going to... Yes, it's still there. It's like, oh no, what are we going to do now? But yeah, we didn't have to come to that point, so we could just carry on and do the full game.
And that led to some more work on the Game Boy Color for you as well, because you did that, because you stuck yourself out there and said, I want to do a Game Boy Color game, and they had something you could work on, and you did a good job of it, you get more Game Boy Color.
And that game was the first game that Software Creations released on time.
Tiny Toon Buster says today. We've got a BMX title as well.
BMX title.
Tech skateboarding. This is coming into the era of extreme sports meets games, isn't it?
Puzzle.
Nancy Drew, yes, on GBA.
It was the guy. It was an American company that did Ultimate BMX and Tech skateboard. And the next contract he got was Nancy Drew. It's okay, I'll do that one then.
It's a very good career. Strike Force Hydra.
Yeah, so after that, I went to I've got a company in London that headhunted me, said, and you do games, Jim, I found you. Because after that, I'd done some Game Boy, I'd done Game Boy Advance stuff. So I put a demo of, a polygon rendering demo of Virtua Fighter. I don't know if anyone's seen it on my website, which was full screen at the gameplay area and 2 characters, and you could fight the CPU character. And I just put it on the website, and someone at Ignition found it and said, Jim, we need you to do some games. Basically, they messed up a little bit, and the development team couldn't produce. They had 10 games to release. They promised their publisher they'd do 10 games. He got 1 done. And it's
You turned the 9 around, what, a week afterwards?
Yeah, well, I had 9 games to do. 4 were for the Game Boy Advance and 5 were for the PlayStation 1. Strike Force Hydra was the one that they'd done on Game Boy Advance, and I had to port that to the PlayStation 1.
OK Plus for the GBA. You told me this was a quick turnaround as well.
Yeah, this one, I've got the source code for this, actually, off RJ.
Oh, you were spoiled.
I was spoiled, but the problem was, it was absolutely massive. It was a ream of paper printed.
It's like the world's ultimate input magazine.
Yes, and I was looking at it and I was thinking, I can't be bothered. By the time I took to read it, let alone take it in, find out how to each routine works, I could have done one with visual ports and got it out quicker, so it did. It took me a month, and I came up with Game Boy Advance version, and then when I ported that to the PlayStation, it took me a week.
Or 2 months to make the menus for Premier League stars.
Yeah,
so there you go. That's how the system works for you.
And the same with Drop Zone. That again took me, I think it was about 5 weeks to do Drop Zone, because there's a lot of levels in that one. And I had to play the SNES version and basically rip all the graphics out of the SNES version, rearrange them myself, because there was no artist. I had no artist for IK Plus or Super Drop Zone. I had to rip all them out, and I had to organise them into character sets and pages, texture pages for the PlayStation, and get it all to fit in, make sure it's like the right colour amounts, like whether it's 4 colours or 16 colours, characters, and did it all in 5 weeks.
Let's come right up to date.
Yep. Oh, World Tennis, and they were the other two. Basically, World Tennis was a game that they designed that needed to be done. So they'd had a team doing the graphics, and I came in and made the game from it. And then they were like, we need 10 games, but we've only got 8. So it's like, well, I've got a game, and basically I'd done a game that I called Mario Tiles, which was like Mahjong, but used Mario tile graphics. So they said, well, obviously we can't use Mario because, although it was coming out for the Game Boy, the language would be saying, hey, Nintendo, here's a game we've just done, and it's using your main character. That might have been bad for them. So we changed it. We thought, right, we need something, because it's a game for kids, we will make it like all cutesy and have characters. And then
Lots of races.
Slot Racer 2 was a game for the iOS.
Yes, you're now up to mobile, and you're doing a lot of mobile development now.
Yeah.
Do you like mobile development?
Yes and no. I like it, but I don't like the fact it's touchscreen only.
Yeah. A lot of developers who worked prior to mobile are going to think that as well.
I like tactile feedback. No, I like to know where
I mean, a lot of us in the room feel that way about playing them too, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're used to, tactile feedback and things, and you can get those little, the joysticks with a little sucker on them you can stick on the screen. They don't work, do they? I've never had an enjoyable
It's a separate controller.
No, it does.
One of the other issues that I've got with like mobile phone games is to play the game on the phone, you've got to have your hand on the screen. So that cuts out like
you have to bear that in mind.
So it cuts out half your screen play areas. But yeah.
But there must be something about it you like in terms of its
I love the fact that you can
reach and
there's a lot of I say there's a lot of reach.
I know you liked games on shelves though, didn't you? Actually?
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like once I've gone to after Animal Snap, that was the last physical game that I had in the shops. And when I went to iOS, it was like, well, there's nothing. So in the future, there's going to be no way to replay these games.
And we were saying at the beginning, we used to buy games by picking up stuff on the shelf, and maybe we read.
People are still buying Spectrum games now. People are still buying ZX81 games. But no one's going to be able to buy.
Your big box Cape Crusader.
So mobile development, Apple Bob as well. It's one of your big mobile
basically,
titles.
after doing Slot Racer 2, the guy, his publisher, had just been bought out by a Japanese company, and he didn't like the idea of which way it was going to go. He didn't know when we were going to continue or what, so he thought, it can't be that hard, can it? I'll be a publisher. So he said, have you got any games you want to publish? So basically, when I was doing Space Invaders on the Game Boy, and I took it to the boss and said, no, do you want this? He said, no. I said, right, any games I do, I'm going to keep to myself. Well, in 1995, I did a game for the Mega Drive, which I called Gorgie, which was basically the original version of Apple Bob. And it's a platformer, and it's so many nods to loads of classics, like Bubble Bobble and Rainbow Island, all the great platform games. And so basically when he said, I'll fund your development if you want, and I'll publish it for you. So I said, okay, great. So we got to reworking the game and give it a lot more colour, as you can see. So it looks pretty, and we made it so there's no death in the game. You can't get killed, you can just get knocked back down to the bottom, and it's all time-based, so you do get game over by time, but you don't actually die. The baddies don't die. What happens is these pink baddies, they're actual bees, because it's basically the big evil corporation has captured the queen bee, and they've put like their gloop all over the worker bees and turned them into the pink baddies. And when they touch you, you go pink as well, and you slow down, so you can't run as fast or jump as far. But if you get the invulnerability power up, you can not kill the baddies, but what you do is you smash all the pink goo off them and rescue the bee, so the bee flies off and you get points for that.
So that's Apple Ball, which is on iOS?
iOS and Windows PC and Windows Phone.
Okay.
I haven't done an Android version yet.
We have to come right up to date because we're nearly out of time, and I'm sure there will be one or two questions that we'll have time for, and then do come and chat with Jim afterwards. I want to come right up to date. I know you've got Pac-Manic Mind Pack. You told me you've done all these arcade conversions, but you've never had a game put in the arcades. You've never written a game that had been released as a cab. So somebody took one of your things and did it for you.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way.
Basically, thanks to man at the back, John Studley. Hi, mate.
Hello, John.
Basically, classic person, brilliant at playing Pac-Man. Back in the day, I couldn't get past level 4 or 5. I was absolutely terrible at it. I mean, I'm a good gameplay. I can play games quite well, but Pac-Man, I don't know why I didn't learn the pans. I wasn't really. I was just playing it for playing its sake. I wasn't actually looking at it because I've never ported it. So I never had a reason to do like a full play and find out what's going on behind the scenes.
So who gave you the hardware?
I bought that.
You bought the book, so you bought a Pac-Man and then put a different game on it?
Yeah.
What we know well.
I'd asked John how to get past level 4 and level 5 and give me some pointers, and he pointed me to some videos on YouTube of the patterns that you do to get around some of the levels. And in doing searches for Pac-Man stuff, I come across the memory map for Pac-Man hardware. And because I know Z80 inside out, we're doing all the specky games, I thought, I've got a chance here, I've got to do it. I've ported games from the arcades to the specky, so I'm going to do it the other way around now. So I thought, what game can I do? So I ended up doing Pac-Man. So Manic Miner. And then did it on Pac-Man hardware. What I'll do is because we need to hurry up, don't we?
Yes.
I'll stay behind after this. If anyone wants to chat about it, I'll come and chat. And then after doing Pac-Man Miner Man on the arcade, what I did was I thought, well, I've done an arcade game, and I thought, well, I actually started on the first time computer was a ZX81. I thought I never actually did anything in machine code on a ZX81, it was all in BASIC. So I thought, now that I've done that, I'll go back and do a ZX81 game, so I did.
So you played Jim Bagley's ZX81 Racing?
Yeah.
Told you we were going to come pretty much full circle, and you are a world record holder.
Yeah, because after doing that, I had a chat with this gentleman here, Andy, who runs RCM, and basically, RCM, it's a retro computer museum, and I was talking to him, I said, I've done Jim Bagley's Racing, and what can I do now? And I said to him, do you reckon he could do video? And he was like, get out of it. And he was like, I reckon he could. And then, because you can get a board called ZXpand, which gives 32k of RAM extra for the ZX81, and it also gives you an SD card to load games faster, so you don't have to load it off tape. So I thought, if you load your stuff off the SD card, surely you should be able to load data off the SD card. And if you can load data off the SD card, you can play video. So anyway, half an hour later, I grabbed a big file, just a data file. It didn't matter whether it was a video or not, I just wanted like proof of concept. So I got it like reading data from the big file and displaying it on the screen, so it was animating and playing video. And I spoke to Andy on Skype, put the video on, said, "Yeah, watch this." Showed him it. He's like, "Oh my god!"
Yes, you can play Dragon's Lair on a ZX81.
When I say "oh my god," they weren't his real words.
So that's a world record. You have the world record for what technically it is the Guinness World Record for
the largest arcade game ported to the ZX. Well, the largest game.
Game, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, ported to the Sinclair ZX81.
There you go.
Yay!
Yeah. Jim wants to know whether you'd like him to do it for the Acorn Atom. because you can, and you can do it, it's done. And Jim's genuinely not sure whether he should submit for a Guinness World Record for, I guess it would be the largest game on the Acorn Atom. You are genuinely thinking it might water down what you've achieved? Is it like just
I don't want to be, I mean, I know the people like Guy Martin, who's done a load of speed records lately with his show, and I don't want, I'm really proud of the fact of I've got a world record for for Dragon Slayer, because I introduced my daughter to the world record in 2012, and since then she's got every book, both the full...
Oh, you mean like the annuals?
Yeah, the annuals, yeah. She's got both the full book and the Gamers Edition book since 2012. She got all of the editions.
There's a Gamers Edition?
Yeah, there's a Gamers Edition.
Oh.
I'll be in the Gamers Edition in 2017, which comes out in September, October.
The Christmas rush, okay.
Yeah.
So you'll be in that, and you'll
I will be in that, and the best thing is, I have a full page. Usually it's like a
little kind of classified ad kind of thing, isn't it?
You've given me a full page, which I'm quite pleased with.
There you go.
And the thing is, right, because I didn't introduce my daughter to it, she was like, I'd love to get in the Guinness Book of Records. And
so you're going to give her the code for the answer. Amazing protege.
That's a good idea, actually. I never thought of that.
Just looking over my shoulder the whole time.
Yeah, that's it. Bloody good.
There you go, get it done, it's fine.
Yeah, and I said to her, she said, I'd love to be in the Guinness Book of Records, but I'm not the strongest girl in the world, and I'm not the fastest girl in the world. I said, you don't have to do that. You know, think outside the box, do something that hasn't been done before. And there's me writing ZX81 Dragon Slayer, not realising that, yeah, I've just done something that is the world's largest game, ported to the ZX81. I think it's just over 15 megabytes of data, including the code. The code's like a K. And the largest game that I know of for the ZX81 is about 48k prior to Dragon Slayer. So I think I got it.
48k?
Yeah.
So you've now got 15 megabytes.
So
it's like somebody turning up with a Blu-ray and showing somebody who's watching videos on VHS, isn't it? Well, we've overrun by a couple of minutes, but I think we have time for a couple of things. And one of those is, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. The amazing thing down here. Thanks very much, Steve. I did say you'd have a chance to ask questions. I'd hate to leave that out. So if you will indulge us for a couple more minutes, does anybody have any questions they would like to ask? Yes?
Yeah, to talk about this very game on the screen now. You mentioned it's Mike Singleton game, but is it really your game?
yeah, I programmed it. He basically designed it. He said you're in as you can see, it's a castle around the throne of a volcano, hence throne of fire. And your father, you've got two brothers, and your father is dying, and you've got to race your other two brothers, controlled by the computer, to the throne to become king.
That's like a Shakespearean tragedy, but it's all fighting for the crown.
And it was originally designed as 129 rooms. So, thanks, that's a nice computer.
What a stupid number. Why did it have 129 rooms?
Well, he likes pushing boundaries, doesn't he? He was...
I want it built on a
some fantastic
17-bit
games,
system.
so
Who wanted to ask a
open
question?
worlds.
We had another question around here. It was yes.
Hi Jim, have you still got the code for the original Doom soundtrack?
No, a few people have asked me that. No, unfortunately I haven't, which I'm kind of gutted of because I would like to do it now.
Rewrite it.
Shut up. Can you stop doing it? It's your fault on half of these things.
He wants to finish Midnight Resistance on the Amstrad first.
Yeah.
He's got a queue. Yeah, join the queue. Any more questions for Jim? I will ask, because while I was thinking is, the only way for maybe many people to play some of these old titles that we've been talking about and reminding them of today, if their hardware still isn't working, is through emulation and stuff. I know some programmers, not many nowadays, but some programmers they don't release their code. They don't like licensing the stuff out to be played on Speculator or whatever. How do you feel about all of that?
I'm fine with it. Yeah.
You just want your games played now, sure?
Yeah. That's what they're there for. That's why I made them. So why not play them?
Any more questions?
One over here.
Where are we? You don't need me to ask questions,
Oh,
do you?
yeah, see.
Just chucking them in.
I just want, that's not an abstract question as well, so it's going to surprise you. How did you find programming with the Saturn?
I actually enjoyed it.
Really?
Yeah. Basically, because I was given a shite job, where I had to not only not use the hardware, but I had to optimise the hell out of it. And you've got that many processors in there. You've got two SH2s, one running at 33 MIPS, one running at 28 MIPS, and you've got 68,000, which is sort of controlling the flow of the program. You've got two DSPs, which you've got 2K of RAM for the program and 2K of data space. So it's like, well, I don't really want it. Like John Carmack was telling me to use them. I was like, well, I don't really, do you know the Saturn? Jesus Christ. It's like, I don't want to use that because the amount of graphics that are going to be going through it, and you've got 2K to like coming in and out and in and out, and then you've got to feed it out and get it to the screen and then get the next text. It's like, that's not going to work. So anyway, use the two SH2s, and the thing with that is, you have to, I had one rendering one line, the other one rendering the next line, and then the the 68,000 would be orchestrating what they were going to be doing next, and then because the SH2s, I don't know what the SH, I think Super Hitachi or something, because it was done by Hitachi. Back in the day, I used to think it was Sega Hitachi because it was like a board that was chip done by Sega and Hitachi. It could have been, I don't know, but I think it is actually Super Hitachi too or something. But anyway, you have to the 5-stage pipeline, whereas it reads in. It's got 5 stages of instruction flow. It like reads in the instruction and it processes it, and it does what the process function is, like adding a number to another number and then storing it back out in memory. But it's got a function in each stage. So if you have like a function here that's like requesting memory from something that's been written to here, which is like from a previous instruction, and it can cause a stall, like a pipeline stall, which means it freezes the process until that one's written out the data. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to write your program for it as you would normally, and then you jumble the instructions up so that they would not cause a stall. So when you're actually reading through like Saturn Doom, you'd be like, what the hell is it doing? But it's just because you have to like remix all the instruction layout.
I've got one more question for you,
Yeah.
and then we'll give us around if anybody wants to ask them anything else. But
Yeah, I'll stay around after if you want to chat or photos.
Was the PlayStation really more powerful than Saturn, and did we ever see the true power of the Saturn?
Yeah, the problem with the Saturn was it had an issue when you tried to draw semi-transparent texture. There was a bug in the hardware, and it would take 6 times longer to draw 1 pixel than with semi-transparency than it would to draw one not semi-transparent, which is why on the likes of virtual racing and stuff like that, where you've got like a stippled shadow. The reason is because it's faster to draw a stippled texture than it is to draw semi-transparent, because if you'd done it semi-transparent, you'd have to lose a shed load of polys. So yeah, the PlayStation was better because you could have, I mean, especially when Toshinden and Tekken come out, and it was Sony were basically taking the mickey with all the semi-transparency. It was like they realised that they'd won, and they just flaunted it.
so there's your answer. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I apologise we ran over for a couple of minutes, but I hope you don't mind. Jim will still be around to say if you want any pictures, you want to have a chat with him. You've also got one of your latest projects with you, I think. You've got the hardware in here for the Vive?
Well, it's for GVR.
Yeah, sorry, GVR, yeah.
I've got it, yeah.
John's working on some VR stuff as well, and a social networking thing, which if you're interested, come over and chat to Jim about it, because we don't have any more time on that, but you've got some modern development stuff on a Gear VR that you could actually try.
It's basically a social network in virtual reality. You can talk with people around the world, you and 3 other people in the same chat room, so to speak.
But it's in VR, and if you've not had a chance to try on a Gear VR, then there's an opportunity to do that. If you're interested in any VR stuff, we have a VR room as well. That's near the main hall. It's the trading hall and all the other things that we've got going on. At 3 o'clock in here, we're talking with John Hare about Sensible Soccer and his sequel, which you can play in the main hall, which is Sociable Soccer, and we'll be having our tournament on that at the end of the day as well. But in this room at 3 o'clock, we're chatting with John Hare about Sensible Soccer and all of the crazy days with that. And at 4:30, John Stoodley, our friend, you mentioned his friend about there, one of a handful of people in the world who've ever done the perfect game of Pac-Man. And we'll be telling you how at 4:30 today. So if you want to know how to get past level 4, Jim, I beg your pardon. Oh no, you've already chatted to John about that. If you want to get any better at Pac-Man, or figure out how you do spend 6.5 hours to do the perfect game, and all the tricks and things that you need in order to get the perfect game of Pac-Man, we'll tell you how at 4:30 in here.
It was thanks to John that after being stuck at level 4 and 5, he showed me some of the tips and pointers to the patterns, and it was after that that I actually managed to get to the the desert, and I got to the desert and thought I've got to do it, and the problem is it takes ages, doesn't it, to get from level 31, is it?
Yeah, 21.
21, yeah. Level 21 all the way up to 256.
So if you had no idea that there were even 21 levels of Pac-Man, let alone how to get to the final one.
So I finally got to the kill screen thanks to John. Thanks, mate.
John's finally done it. Having known how it was done, finally did it at one of our events last year. We'll tell you how at 4:30 this afternoon, and we'll be with John here at 3 o'clock. Another round of applause, please, everybody, for the amazing Jim Bagley. Thanks for coming, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day at Playback.
If you only knew the power on the dark side.
2, 1, 0.